In April 1997, a research vessel sailed through the Amazon rainforest. Their goal was to find the mysterious Shuar tribe. Legend has it that the Shuar worshipped the man-eating python, viewing it as a mysterious snake. This snake was ferocious and powerful, tracking its prey by the heat emitted by living creatures. However, this legend intrigued scientist Kevin. If they could find the Shuar, they would not only be able to conduct scientific research, but also have great news value. So they organized an expedition team to the mysterious and ancient Amazon rainforest. However, their journey was not smooth, and several teammates were sacrificed. The culprit was a fellow traveler named Shawan. As soon as they entered the Amazon, they encountered a storm. In a river, they met Shawan, who was trapped. Out of kindness, several people rescued the man, but Hogan was buried there. He had lived in the rainforest for many years, primarily catching snakes, and claimed to have personally seen Shuar people. It was clear that Paul was familiar with the area. The expedition team followed his guide, but strange things kept happening after Paul boarded the boat. When the boat reached a stretch of water, a rope became entangled in the propeller. Kevin, a skilled waterman, dove underwater to cut the rope, but just then an accident occurred. When Kevin was pulled from the water, a venomous bee was found in his mouth. After emergency treatment, the man was temporarily out of danger. Shawan suggested rushing Kevin to the hospital, otherwise his wound would become inflamed in such harsh conditions. He then suggested that the expedition team change course to allow Kevin to receive medical attention more quickly. However, they hadn't traveled far when a fence blocked the river, so they resorted to blasting, forcing a deadly path through the river. About an hour later, they saw an abandoned boat. Shawan and a few others went to collect supplies, while Xiaohei carried a camera to film. After searching, they only found a few barrels of fuel. Just as they were leaving, Cheng Mao, who was left alone, was entangled by a giant python. He tried to call out to his companions, but the python strangled him, making no sound. Then, the python opened its mouth and swallowed the man whole. The others became anxious when Cheng Mao disappeared, but Shawan wasn't concerned. Instead, he tried to recruit someone to help him catch the python. That night, he told Huang Mao about the nearby python. He said that if they could capture it alive, it could fetch at least $1 million. Huang Mao was tempted. The two hit it off. The next day, still no sign of Cheng Mao, they decided to continue their journey, first taking the injured Kevin to the hospital and then returning to search for Cheng Mao. But Shawan refused, knowing the python was nearby. To achieve his goal, he used force to coerce the group until nightfall. Shawan had already set up a crane, strung a wire, and used a dead monkey as bait. Soon, there was movement in the water, and Shawan hadn't anticipated the underwater creature's power. He struggled to retract the wire rope, and a giant python suddenly broke out of the water. Everyone was terrified by the massive creature. Before they could react, the wire, unable to withstand the strain, broke. Just as the water calmed down, the python suddenly resurfaced, clutching Wang Mao in a fierce grip. Unbeknownst to them, this wasn't even the largest python yet. Seeing Shawan's relentless pursuit of the giant python, they decided to finish it off. They knocked Shawan unconscious while he was distracted. Xiao Mei discovered an old newspaper, and everyone finally understood the man's intentions. However, escaping the rainforest safely wasn't easy. The boat's bottom struck a submerged rock. They tried to use the rope to pull it out, so Xiaohei and the others dived and secured the other end to a thick tree. Lena seized this opportunity to kill Shawan. She slowly approached the man with a knife, but she underestimated him. Shawan leapt up and locked his legs around Lena's throat. The woman fainted and was kicked into the water. Shawan then used the knife she had dropped to save himself. However, just then, the water began to grow restless. Xiaohei sensed something was amiss and quickly called his companions to the boat, where the boatman was closer to shore. They climbed up the rocks and hid behind a waterfall, but were still spotted by the python. Xiao Mei wanted to shoot the python, but Shawan untied it, and a fight ensued. 2 fists were no match for 4 hands, and Shawan was knocked unconscious by Xiaohei and his companions and thrown into the water. The boatman, however, became prey to the python. After everything was over, they prepared to return to the boat, concluding their expedition. But they were running low on fuel. Xiaohei and Xiao Mei returned to the warehouse to search for fuel. Unbeknownst to them, Shawan wasn't dead, but had been ambushed. He had set up a trap there, intending to use Xiaohei and Xiao Mei as bait to capture the python alive. He then poured a bucket of monkey blood on them. The strong smell of blood quickly attracted the python, which was even larger than the previous one. Its white tail tightly wrapped around its prey, and just as the python was about to devour them alive, Shawan leapt from a height and trapped the python with a fishing net. However, the python was too strong and the net was quickly torn. The man immediately tried to escape, but the python's powerful contraction gave the man no chance, and the man's face was pierced. The python began to transform, then opened its foul-smelling maw, opened its esophagus, and swallowed Shawan. Just then, Xiaohei and the other man untied the ropes, just in time to witness the terrifying scene of the python swallowing a living person. The python then continued to pursue the 2 men. In this critical moment, the woman had no choice but to climb up the chimney. Xiaohei seized the opportunity and nailed the python's tail to the ground with a chisel. Then, he opened the fuel can and burned the giant python to death. With a violent explosion, the python burst into flames and fell into the water. This 1997 science fiction